completing your paperwork, all of that stuff does count. And then just my last plug, we are a service partner of several organizations on Cape that work with volunteers, mainly the AmeriCorps program. So Dee introduced Mary Doucette earlier. Mary Doucette is with the AmeriCorps Cape Cod program, which is a national service program. So she's going to be here for the next 10 months doing the hair flip. And there's an opportunity for other individuals to participate in an AmeriCorps program, do national service as well. And this is called AmeriCorps Seniors. It's a program that is run through Elder Services of Cape Cod and the island. There's no time commitment. There's just some additional benefits that you get from joining this program. And if you'd like to hear more about those benefits and about the program, you can contact me at the office, and I can try and answer your questions, or I can put you in contact with our connection at Elder Services for this program. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name's John. I am the new Land Stewardship Coordinator for the BCT. I was brought on in February, and so I am also pretty new to this, but I am thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled that more people want to be a part of it. So what is a land monitor? So as Dee had said, the BCT owns or manages over 1,400 acres of land on over 200 properties. So that's a lot of land, and there's really only 3 or 4 of us here all the time. So this really, really highlights how critical it is for our volunteers to be a part of what we do, and just such a critical part of the mission and everything we do. And so what is a land monitor? Well, so a land monitor volunteers and takes primary responsibility for monitoring one or more of BCT's conservation lands to ensure the conservation status is maintained. And so I'll get a little more into that right now. And so what does that really entail? Well, so that's a property visit 1 or 2 times a year. And so we like to kick it off in the late fall and through the winter and early spring, really when all the leaves are down, when it's really easy to go trampling through the woods, and you're not fighting, all the bugs and everything like that. Because, what a land monitor does is walk through the woods and checks on our properties for us. And so what you do during that site visit is you observe the conditions of the land. So that's the trees, that's any animals you see, stuff like that, and you record issues. So this is a really critical part of it. So in order to keep our conservation land as conservation land, we have to see what's going on, and that's looking at structures like sheds, that's any vegetation that's been removed, any sort of trash that's been dumped, or any sort of excavation that's been going on. There will be small scale litter, especially along roadsides and stuff like that. And then keeping trails clear and supporting cleanups. So that's really focused on our signature properties. So if you're unfamiliar, that would be something like the Eddy Bay Trail or the Eddy Sisters Trail with the community garden right there, Windmill Meadows, which you saw at the beginning of the PowerPoint, and areas like that where we really focus our management efforts, because they are really significant properties in Brewster. They have some really special characteristics about them that really we just focus a lot of our management efforts on. You will run into some trails on some of our properties that we don't actively manage, and those could just be put there by the neighborhood or something like that. And although those trails are being used by some people, those aren't the trails that we actively manage. So it's one of those things. We would like, issues like that reported to us if a tree falls over it, but that's not something that we would actually go out and fix. And then clean out around property signs. I'm sure you guys have been driving down 6A or something like that and seen those green signs right on the side of the road. Those are indicative of properties that we own. And so something that we like to stress and are pushing towards is keeping those clear and clean of vines and brush and stuff like that to kind of keep up the appearance of those and just the way that we present ourselves to the public. and then report these issues in written form to the BCT. So I'm going to be getting into what that looks like, but these written forms are really critical so we can actually have a written record of some issues that have been dealt with, or some issues that have crept up, because these are the written records for years to come. So yeah. And so what are these issues? So like I said, it's structures. So that's tree stands. It's hunting season right now, which I'll get into in a second. It's also sheds. It's dumping like trash, cinder blocks, wood, stuff like that. Even yard debris dumping, which might not seem significant. People just dumping leaves over their side yard into the spot of woods right next to them. Well, that's conservation land, and leaf dumping can be a vector of pests or weed seeds, invasive species, things that we don't want on this land that we set out to protect. And then there's excavation, any sort of big dig, like that. And then vegetation removal, removing trees, any sort of that stuff. That's really big. And then boundary violations. So this is a really important one as well. So boundary violations, that would be, maybe a neighbor, their lawn is starting to kind of creep over that line, and, onto conservation land, which again, conservation land isn't meant to be just lawn. It's meant to be, wooded area for habitat for animals, for protecting water resources and stuff like that. And so, it's sort of those boundary violations. A lot of sheds end up kind of creeping over the lawn. People end up, parking onto a lawn and stuff like that. So sort of that sort of thing. And then natural events, down trees, that would be more around focused on our signature properties over trails, because if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it and it's not affecting anyone, it doesn't really matter. That tree, that's part of the natural succession of everything. It's going to be great habitat wood. But if there's a tree that fell over a trail, which actually Mary and I just took care of one at Baker's Pond today, that impedes people's access to the trail and impedes their experience to connect with our conservation lands. And so that's when something like that would be reported. And we can't always be out there on the trails, so that's where people going out and just walking the trails and letting us know if something like that is wrong is really, really important. And then things like evidence of disease, if especially as the climate starts changing, a lot of pests are going to be making their way north, and a lot of threats to our forested land will be becoming apparent and making their way here. And so big events like some massive defoliation of a tree, that's kind of significant of it. You might need a little more keen of an eye, and maybe sometime in the future, we'll be able to hold a training about how to spot issues like that. But it's just sort of those things to start thinking about. And so here's some examples. You have the wood, you have a tire, a propane tank, wheels, people who just don't want to go to the transfer station and pay $10 to dump stuff. They think they can just dump it in this random spot of woods. And then the little left-hand corner, you have a tree. Structures aren't only tree stands, it's also lean-tos, like in that picture right there. But it's not all about the bad stuff. We also want to stress, going out there and checking on these properties are also a good thing. It's a good way to connect with nature. In the bottom right hand corner, you have a spadefoot toad. Those are pretty cool toads. Or in the top right hand corner, you got some bracket fungi, which is, it's can't really do anything about that. It just, it looks cool kind of thing. At one of our properties, we have an osprey nest. We have coyotes, we have fisher cats. Going out there and checking on the well-being of the property is just really a good way to actually connect with these areas. We really strive to protect areas like vernal pools, where in the spring, it's really cool to hear all the toads and everything going on. And so, yeah, just sort of that sort of thing. It's not all about the bad, although that is important. It's also about kind of recognizing why these areas are special and why we've tried to protect them. And so, I've asked what you can do, and now it's what we really don't want you to do. And that's construct new trails, post signs, introduce new plants. So constructing trails shouldn't be something that you do. Removing invasive species, I can talk your ear off about invasive species. Ask anybody who's on the call right now. I have been. They're really bad, but it's sort of that disturbance that we don't want anyone doing anything without, approval by the BCT staff, such as myself or Amy. Some of that stuff kind of takes a coordinated effort. And something else is using power tools, just for the safety of our volunteers. And we don't want anyone using power tools without, another person there and without approval by the BCT. So if you do see a tree that's down somewhere in the woods, please don't go out and just kind of cut it by yourself. That puts you in a really bad situation, and that puts us in a bad situation as well. And then of course pesticides and herbicides. Don't go spraying everything with herbicide or Roundup or vinegar or anything like that. And then entering into confrontational situations. So our what we're asking of you is to just sort of make a record of what's going on. And if there is an issue that crops up, that's where our role kind of steps in. We're not asking you to go out and go knocking on somebody's door and saying, hey, this is conservation land, you can't do this kind of thing. um, One, that puts you in a bad situation, and two, that puts us in a bad situation, because there's sort of a proper way to go about doing this. And we don't really want to have anyone try to confront somebody about someone, and that person might be a little erratic or violent or anything like that, or they might just tell you to do something not so great, and kind of thing. So although we love the enthusiasm of our volunteers about everything, sort of that responsibility of addressing these issues, that falls to the BCT staff. So please don't get yourself in a weird situation like that. And so some suggested items to bring. So this is just for one, making sure you're prepared, and two, making sure you're safe out there. Ticks are an issue, mosquitoes are an issue. Not so much now, but bringing a property book, which includes a map. We're trying to make really more detailed maps so you can really orient yourself out there. A blank monitoring report, which I'll show in a minute. Notebook, pens, pencils, any field guides you might have, so you can actually kind of identify more of that flora and fauna that we mentioned. A camera. I mean, these days everybody has a camera in their phone, and you should be bringing your phone with you anyway. So unless you have a really nice camera, you should be set there. Definitely bring water, especially, I mean, now, you're outside, you're exercising. Even though it's cold, you do need to be drinking a lot of water. Good thing about being a BCT volunteer is that you'll be getting a BCT water bottle. So got you covered there. And then gloves, clippers for light pruning. Don't be grabbing any thorns or anything like that. I've done that plenty, and I have a splinter right now. So be sure to bring stuff like that. Trash bag, there's, especially on properties that are along the road, there's always going to be roadside litter. So just be sure to bring a trash bag to sort of pick some of that stuff up. Insect repellent, first aid kit. A compass is good to, if you know how to use it, to really get your bearings sometimes. GPSs can only get you so far, especially when it's under canopy cover. And then cell phone and sunscreen. And so some things to really check off, any sort of erosion issues, any sort of encroachment of vegetation that would go into, maybe a lawn is starting to encroach, or maybe there is an invasive species that you recognize that's really bad, such as Japanese knotweed, is starting to make its way into a property or something like that. Safety hazards would be things like widowmakers, like giant branches hanging over a trail that could fall down and hurt somebody, things like that. Invasive species, sort of those things. Litter and debris. If there's any, roadside litter is pretty typical, but if there's any sort of dumping, any sort of signs of maybe people are partying, lots of beer cans, that sort of thing. Evidence of wildlife, again, that goes into one of the nice things to check out. Trail conditions. How's the trail doing? If you're doing a signature property, is there anything encroaching on the trail itself? Does it have to be cut back? Are people leaving? Is it trashed? Are people leaving a lot of dog poop and everything? Dumping. Vandalism. We've had some vandalism at our properties. People drawing ladybugs everywhere. That sort of thing to address. Significant changes. This is going to be something that you start to pick up on as you go out there more and more. you'll start to really know the property like the back of your hand. And so anything significant that changes from the one visit to the other visit, maybe it's a huge area next to the property that's getting cleared for a house, or maybe somebody is trying to clear areas on our property for a driveway or something like that, or those sort of things. And then the boundary encroachment, that is, that's the people putting sheds on our property, lawns encroaching, those sort of things. People trying to take little bits and pieces of, the conservation land. And so I had mentioned that it's hunting season. So along with the water bottle, you're also going to be getting an orange vest, a fitted orange vest. And so for the safety of everybody, we ask that you wear the orange vest and be aware of what sort of hunting season it is and where there is hunting. So the map to your left, that shows where hunting is allowed. But as Amy had mentioned, just because hunting isn't allowed there doesn't mean people don't hunt there. So just wearing your orange vest and being aware is really good. And right now it's deer season for archery, and then we'll be going into primitive firearms. It's also quail and pheasant season starting on Saturday, and then it's also turkey season, stuff like that. So just be aware. If anybody wants more information about this sort of thing, you can find it on the Brewster Town website. Yeah, stuff like that. And so this is the property monitoring report. So this is what everybody will be filling out. You can find this on our website, and after the PowerPoint, I'll be able to show you where on the website it is. It is a fillable PDF, so you might be able to use it on your phone or an iPad or something like that if you have that capability. Otherwise, you can just print it out and deliver it to us. And so this is what you will be filling out when you're on your when you're doing your monitoring visit. And the area that I really want to highlight is what Amy had mentioned, and it is at the bottom: total time spent monitoring visit and completion of report. This is how we track hours. It helps us, it helps you guys figure out what's going on and everything, excuse me, and that sort of thing. And I do want to highlight previously what we had said, that we manage about 1,400 acres, and that's through fee simple, properties that the Brewster Conservation Trust outright owns, and then things called conservation restrictions, where it's pretty much a legal I might butcher this again, Amy, I'm sorry. It's a legal protection for someone not to develop an area of their land, to conserve it. Masaminos, that sort of thing. And so there are two different properties, and there are two different requirements to monitor them. And so there will be two different reports. So what I'm showing you right here is the property monitoring report. That's for fee simple properties. And our conservation restriction monitoring report is also on our website. If you have any doubts about it, it should say it right at the top. And the questions will also be different. And so fee simple properties, I just want to highlight, they can be, private landowners actually own this land, but we still have to go out and monitor it. So that's when you would go out, you would contact the landowner, and hopefully you guys would be able to get together and walk the property and sort of establish a dialogue and stuff like that. And so what's next? I think I'm going to hand this off to Dee.
Yes, sir. Okay, so what's next? So we just kind of threw a lot of information at most of you. It may be new, it may be familiar to some that have already done this, maybe in other towns they lived in. But basically, I want you to know that we will be, if interested in doing land monitoring, we're going to set you up with a mentor. So the first time you go out, you're not going to be alone. You'll be with somebody helping you manage everything. So the next step is you received several forms attached to your email. And if you didn't, just email me and let me know. One of them was a registration form. The registration form's also on our website. So that's the first thing we need from you if you're interested in saying, yes, this sounds like it's for me. As John mentioned, it's a one or two time a year commitment in going out to your properties. And normally new land monitors grab, one or two or three properties, and they start off there and then build. So if this is something that you would like to do, just email me your registration form and let me know how many properties you'd like to take on, 1 or 2 or 3 or more. And then in the next few weeks, the team at BCT will be looking at our list of 204 properties and figuring out where you live and what properties might go well with where you live, or if you have requested a certain property to monitor, we'll try to do some arranging so everybody can be happy with the properties that they have. And then we will assign you a mentor, which is one of our veteran land monitors. We'll connect the 2 of you via email, and then you'll let us know when you want to go out, and we'll get your property books ready. You'll come and pick them up at our offices up on the Red Top Road. And you'll go out with your property books and your monitor mentor person and take a walk around the property and fill out. They can help you fill out your forms. They can help you take a look for, figure out where the boundaries are and if the boundaries need to be marked or not, and noted as such. So first step is just handing in that registration form and letting me know that you want to be a monitor. And also, thank you for doing all this. We couldn't do it without you, as you'll soon be able to tell. But as I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in joining our boundary crew, the crew goes out and trudges through and learns how to mark boundaries. We do an online training such like this one, a little bit more detailed. And then we will go out with, socially distanced and COVID safe with masks, etc., and take a few people out and show them how to mark boundaries in the field. We're hoping to do that in November, and we'll be announcing those dates any minute. So let me know if you're interested in the boundary crew as well. I did want to mention I wanted to note one thing for safety for COVID. If you do go out in the field in the next several weeks with your mentor and you start to pick up trash, just make sure you're being safe about it. I personally wear gloves and I have a grabber that I use, but if you don't have a grabber, at least make sure you have some gloves that you can, disposable gloves that you can take off after picking up trash. And always wear your orange vest. I always let people know that when they go out to monitor, if they're going out by themselves after you've got a couple of trainings under your belt and you're ready to go out. If you do go out by yourself, just please let someone know you're heading out and where you're going to be. And if you do head out with another person, always wear that orange vest because it helps other people see you. If you're both walking along in 2 different directions looking for boundaries and you lose track of one another, it makes it so you can see each other in the woods real easily. So I will turn it back to John and Amy, and hope to hear from you all soon.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us. A lot of information came at you. So something that Dee said, we're not gonna, if you're interested in this, we're not just gonna give you a whole bunch of properties and say good luck. Like I mentioned, I'm new to this. We're all gonna kind of work through it together. Let me just pull up where you can find the land monitoring reports on the website. And if anybody has any questions, please. Let's see. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So this is the Brewster Conservation Trust website right there. The URL, brewsterconservationtrust.org, pretty easy. You can scroll down, see everything that's happening right here. You can see our newsletters and everything. And then if you go over to the right, you'll see volunteer, join us. Volunteer work days, download the registration form right there, email the registration form, and then go to the land monitor page and click this link. And then that will bring you to a map of Brewster right here, the property monitoring report and the conservation restriction report as well. And so if you just click this, it should pop up, and that's a property monitoring report. Again, I said it's fillable, so you can fill it in. And it says property monitoring report right there. And then this is the conservation restriction one. Again, it's different. So, but again, it's fillable as well. So that is where you can find those. Cool. Did anybody have any questions about anything? No? All right. The good thing about the being with a mentor is that they'll be able to give you some lessons learned, you know, some of the things that they had to learn the hard way. So, yeah.
I'll just add too, in addition to the mentor, you know, we do try to promote safety first on a lot of things. And Peter Scheibel jumped off the call, but Peter, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Peter is somebody who doesn't have any land that he monitors himself, but is very willing to go out with anybody if they want to partner. So he's familiar with the process, and he's also just a great kind of buddy in the woods, especially if you're on some of the more remote properties. So keep that in mind as well. No questions? I guess the second time around, John, you covered everything really well.
Yeah.
Lam, did you say anything, or Cal, any tips from professionals on this?
John Lamb here. I'm on the board of trustees. I've been on the board for about 7 years. Thank you, everybody, for being interested in this. There really is a lot to do. We're kind of playing catch up here because we had a lot of properties and looked at some of them that we knew had issues, but there are a lot that we haven't been monitoring regularly in the past just because we didn't have the capacity. So we do very much need the help. One point I noticed was the beginning. John mentioned, the other John mentioned the idea of clearing poison ivy. Some people are really allergic to that. Don't worry if you're allergic to that and that's a problem. We don't expect every individual who signs up to do that. We'll send people who are capable of doing it and willing to do it, and don't get too much damage when they do it. So try not to worry about that. The advice for going out, I think, that I've learned is preparation is key. So you should always plan on, like 40 minutes or so of getting into the idea of the property beforehand. You can look online at the aerial views and look up the old maps that have more details about the terrain and that kind of thing. So you're kind of prepared to find your way around when you get there. And if they aren't already marked, look up the property corner coordinates as well, just so you can check those on your phone. So preparation is key. And the last thing that hasn't been mentioned, because it doesn't really apply so much now in the COVID situation, is that not all encounters are bad encounters. We often have good encounters with people when we're going out there, and the times when we can stop and talk to them, and you meet a neighbor, and that neighbor sometimes becomes the property monitor for that property because they care about it too. But they get involved, and we get a lot of support as we go around as well. So as well as wearing our identified gear like hats and vests, we also have little cards we can leave with contact information and that kind of thing. So we'll be getting back into doing that. It'll be a bit harder now as we have to keep our distance, but we get back into doing that next year as well, I think. So you become ambassadors for BCT as well and get more people engaged in positive ways in the process and meet nice people too. So that's part of the fun as well. That's all I wanted to say, except to all our team of people who work for us. They've done a fantastic job putting this together in a nice, concise way and presenting it very well. So thank you for that.
Cal.
Did I understand, John, that you said the reports can be done electronically? We can do our monitoring, submit our monitoring reports electronically?
Yes. So if nobody heard that, Cal was asking if we can submit the property monitoring reports electronically, and yes, you can. If you have the capability, you can fill it out while you're out and about, and then you can save it and just email it straight to me, and that's pretty much submitting it electronically. Otherwise, you can, when you return your property books, you'll just have the monitoring report in there as well. Something else I forgot to mention, we are also moving towards having just a folder that has all the essentials that you need and everything like that, and really, really detailed maps. So should be good. Yeah.
What if you don't know what the boundaries are on your property?
What was that, Cal?
What if you don't know where the boundaries of are. I have one property that I've had for, golly, 7, 8 years now, and I'm still not real sure.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if nobody heard that, he asked, what do you do if you don't know where the property bounds are? And so that is an issue, and that's something that we're trying to move towards, especially with the boundary crew. But you know, just still being able to go out there and make observations as best you can. And you know, with GPS and stuff like that, although it might not be precise, you can get within, you know, 20, 15 feet of an area. So if there is an issue, say a neighbor is encroaching on the property and you need to actually know where the property is, then that would be important, and it get brought up to us and we deal with it.
Okay.
In terms of having a property out in, you know, somewhere in the Punkhorn, because we do have properties that are just surrounded by nothing, by conservation land. That's when you could kind of give it your best guess. Amy might be able to speak a little more to that. No? Good? All right.
No, sorry, I had to unmute myself. No, I think you covered that quite well. You know, obviously, if somebody's going to encroach over our boundaries, they're going to do it into the land. So if you have a good sense of at least the center and just kind of work your ways out a little, there is a property, and I may be repeating what John said, that you're extremely concerned about. We can definitely get out there with a GPS and maps and find our boundaries. So if there is anything questionable, just go ahead and jot it down. Another tip is that if you can draw just like a quick sketch of the property as well and put markings where you think the issues are, that would be helpful as well to help us kind of narrow down the location of possible encroachments or anything.
Yeah, and you can, yeah, that's a great point, Amy. Thank you for that. Did that answer your question, Cal?
It did. Thank you very much.
Yeah, perfect.
Presentation.
I think we forgot to mention too, that once you sign up to be a monitor or a volunteer of any way, and we get your registration form, you will be getting a volunteer packet that has a placard that you can put in your car when you pull over on the side of the road to do land monitoring or whatever it is that says you're with Brewster Conservation Trust, etc. You'll be getting the vest, as mentioned, our new water bottles and a hat. So yeah, there's John with the new water bottle. We're very excited about our water bottles. So you'll get a little swag package to start to motivate you.
All right. Any more questions, comments? And yes. Let's see.
What a great presentation. Really clear, clean, and I didn't even need any swag, and now I'm even more excited. So thank you.
Yeah, we really try to sweeten the deal.
Sure did. I'm going to sport the vest.
You should. I wear it every time I'm out in the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
Well,
you guys. Thank you for all you do. It's nice to see your faces and hear your voices after emailing back and forth quite a bit. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that. Anybody else? No?
Everybody wants to get to dinner
Yeah.
or cocktail hour or whatever's next. Tea.
I think Cal has one more thing.
These orange vests that you're talking about, I don't have one.
You don't have one? Ooh, yeah, sorry, Cal. We're fresh out. I'm just kidding. Yeah, you can come into the office. We'll be able to, come to the office and we can bring it out to you. We'll probably have you guys try on one or two because we do have different sizes and you do want it to fit. Dee's good point is you want to bring, the jacket that you would actually be out in the field with when you try it on because you might get a size too small if you don't have the jacket kind of thing.
Just to John's last point there, not trying on the vest, but coming to the office. Our office is technically still closed. And so we don't have representation there every single day. But if you want to come and pick up property books or grab all of your stuff, please just call in advance or email one of us to set a time, and we'll make sure that we're there to get everything that you need and go over everything with you one more time if we need to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Really appreciate it. Really excited for you guys to be a part of it if you're interested. And it's good to see everyone's faces, like Ann said, you know.
Well done.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for what you do.
Bye.
Thank you.